Well, thank you very much for staying with us on the AM show. And as announced earlier, we are going to delve into that conversation on the back of election 2020, resolving the electoral impasse. We have a one-on-one interaction with the Peace Council's chairman, Dr. Ernest Edu Jemfi, and he actually joins us to discuss on what the Peace Council has been up to and what the way forward actually looks like currently. Doc, a very good morning to you, if you can hear me.
I'll get back to you in a minute.
Okay, so we'll try to connect with him. Doc, a very good morning to you, if you can hear me.
Good morning.
Great, a pleasure to connect with you this morning. Now, I know you've been up to a lot before, during, and after election 2020. You've been discoursing with the political parties, especially the NDC. Let's start from there. Your interactions with the NDC, what have they been like in recent days? There was that unfortunate situation when, an encounter or a meeting was arranged or was suggested at their party's HQ. But following that, what has the interaction been like with the opposition NDC?
Well, we had a very fruitful meeting in spite of what happened there. And we heard from the leadership of the party. They told us all about their grievances. And we came back, reevaluated most of the things they shared, and also decided to work on them. Some of the issues that relate to the NPP, we found a means of talking to the NPP. Issues related to the Electoral Commission, we found the means to talk to the Electoral Commission. So you notice that in the past week, the EC has issued out a lot of press statements. Most of those things have come up because of some of the negotiation we've done with them to clarify certain issues, because the public must be well educated about the issues that are at stake. We've had some other engagements behind closed doors, just trying to make sure that at least we can minimize the tension. Once the tension is minimized, I think it makes room for us to continue with our negotiation.
Now, you touch on some of these issues that you've been discussing. Can you enlighten us, Reverend Dr. Edu Jemfi, on some of the pertinent ones, the crucial ones that have come to the fore, at least from the side of the NDC?
Well, I think the major issue is the issue of not understanding some of the issues that took place in some of the stations, the need for recollation or whatever it is. Now, we must understand that there are some issues that are beyond the mandate of the Peace Council. And I think that those are issues that the public must understand. Sometimes the public is pushing us to go beyond our mandate. We can only do very good mediation when you have all the parties ready to talk. And so what we're doing now mostly is engaging all the parties involved, bringing them to the point where everybody is ready to negotiate. Now, the other thing is that in any form of negotiation and mediation, people must move from their entrenched position to a place where we can actually talk. So this has been our major focus for now. How do we bring all the parties involved to that position where they are ready to sit down to talk, and when they are also ready to shift positions where necessary?
Right. And so this discourse is going on with the political parties. Has the NDC end sort of, would I say, conceded to some of the proposals you've made to them thus far? Because we've seen the demonstrations. In fact, I'm looking at one of such demonstrations that happened just over the weekend. We've seen multiple demonstrations, peaceful, yes, but sometimes with the burning of tires and all of that. We've also seen that recent release from the National Peace Council where you suggest that if there have been violations, the legal remedy is the best one to adopt. But even yesterday, there was an interaction on this platform with General Esiedun Ketia, General Secretary of the party. It doesn't appear that may exactly be the route the party will adopt in the immediate term. So what exactly, in your exchanges with the NDC, what have they agreed to thus far?
Well, as at now, there hasn't been any agreement. The first meeting we had was to listen to them and to see what we could do about it. After that, we've tried to use other emissaries to also engage them to see whether we can tone down. The immediate issue is if we can minimize as for demonstration, you cannot hold anybody back from demonstrating. But we want a peaceful demonstration. And then also all the attacks on people and things should also stop so that it makes room for us to sit down to talk. Those are the key things that we're looking for now. If they can hold on to those things, then it paves the way for us to now begin to interrogate some of the things that they have shared. But the reality is that the results have been declared. The results have been gazetted. Right now, the situation is in law. It is not only a matter of talking behind the scenes. And that is why we are admonishing that once the case is now situated in law, the best way to handle it is through the courts. We may talk about talking behind the scenes or whatever. I don't think at this point, just talking will resolve the problem, because once it's been gazetted, it's situated in law, and it's only the law courts that can deal with the matter. So our encouragement is for them to consider that option. And for now, they're also running out of time. We have 21 days from the declaration of the results to go to court. And so as we count the days, that period is gradually running out. And I believe that this will be the appropriate time for them to file at least their case. And then we can then find a way of dealing with the matters.
Now, just because you make mention of filing their case in a court of law, I'll go back to what Esiedun Ketia said yesterday, suggesting that at least in one instance, per the legal structures and the procedures to be followed, they have been told that it is premature, it is too early to pursue that in a court of law, and that could also affect other cases, parliamentary and otherwise, that they are pursuing. And he has said that they are also pursuing the option of the court of public opinion to push institutions like the Electoral Commission to act, to do something. For example, when it comes to the faulty calculations, so to speak. And I'm careful with my choice of words because there have been certain concerns about the mathematical, renditions of the electoral results. And they are citing all of these. So don't you think, apart from the legal remedy, the other options they need to explore, maybe they need to exhaust them before they go to court? Don't you think so?
Well, I think in the 2012 case, the court asked KPMG and others to do an audit of some of the pink sheets. That option is available. There are stipulations in law that will allow independent investigators to look at those things and inform the court as to what the actual procedure is. Now, by just talking and demonstrating, it does not get to the root of the people. In terms of the popular court, yes, you may win the hearts of the people, but that does not solve the problem at the end of the day. I believe that if we go to court and the court instructs that let's get one of these accounting organizations around to sit down and interrogate those figures, they come out with the reality of those figures. This is what it is, that is what it is. The decision is made and we move on. At least the Techiman South case, MPP took it to court, the court threw it away, and NDC has won. So if we've been able to try it in one case, why can't we do it in the other? And I believe that going down to that level where we can sit down and critically interrogate those things, do the calculations properly, we should be able to find an answer to some of these things. We are dealing with possible cases of human error. Assuming calculations were wrong, assuming people posted wrong figures, whatever it is, the pink sheets are available. Let's pull them together and let the court decide. Let somebody investigate those cases, those situations, and then give the court the answer. And once that is done, we end this case. But constant threats, I think, poses a danger to our country. And you may find a situation where criminals may begin to infiltrate into their ranks. And the fact is that whatever happens between now and then, people will blame them for it. It may not even be coming from the party, but people are going to blame them for that. So that will damage their future reputation as a party. That is why we appeal to their members and their supporters. Let's tone down and find the appropriate means to address these issues.
Now, before we move on to talk about security, politics is a two-way street. Like it or not, the NPP and the NDC are the two predominant political parties. We've been speaking extensively about your engagement with the opposition and DC, but we know if this matter goes to court, we're going to have the EC and the winning party, the NPP, involved. What has the interaction been like with the NPP, the winning candidate, the winning party for the presidential election? Because in some areas as well, as people have hit the streets, we have had a few clashes of sorts. What has been your engagement with them?
Well, we've also been engaging the NPP and encouraging them not to do counter demonstrations, because those things are the things that spark the conflict. And so you will notice that by and large, NPP have restrained themselves in terms of going out, and it's all part of the engagement process. Look, the people are on the street. If you go out against them, you are likely to encounter more problems. So why don't you stay away? In the same way, we are also appealing to the police also to be a little restrained and in terms of the enforcement of the law, so that it doesn't also escalate to a point where this thing will get out of hand.
Now, you've also spoken, now in that release, and if I may just quote what is said here, you say the police should enforce the law without fear or favor and investigate all crimes committed to ensure justice. They are encouraged to deal strictly according to law with those who may want to use the genuine concern of electoral disputants to prevent trouble in the country. The question, though, that I want to pose on this has to do with the security apparatus. I mean, we've had concerns. We've had a number of issues raised about those who partook in the elections and the activities of some military personnel, police personnel, which supposedly was not right. So the question I want to pose on this, or at least which was not favorable to certain parties. So the question I want to pose is, are you engaging the security personnel as well, security officials, and what have you unearthed thus far?
Well, we have been talking to some top-level security personnel as well, trying to understand what happened. In some situations, some people believe that some of the personnel on the ground went overboard. They could have restrained themselves a little bit. And those are the reasons why we're calling for some investigation, because it's important for the police service, the security service themselves to understand exactly what happened, and also to call their men and women to order at certain points. So these are very important things that together as a nation, we need to interrogate. The issues about the EC, the issues about the police, the issues about the political parties, all of these are issues that we need to settle down and deal with. But I think that we can deal with all these things in an atmosphere of peace when we allow things to settle down and all of us approach these things from a very sober reflection. We should be able to find some solution to the problem.
On that same bit when it comes to security, I just have to ask you this pointed question. There is that right, constitutionally guaranteed right, to demonstrate. Unless
Yes.
it turns violent, then you would be, veering into different territory. But if you had your way, Reverend Dr. Edu James, would you, urge the NDC to bring a stop to the demonstrations they've been organizing across the country? If you could tell them stop and they would actually do it, would you adopt that option?
Well, I believe that if they do that, they will win more sympathy than what is going on now. I spoke to some market women yesterday. Some of them are anxious now because they think that we are in the Christmas week and there's a time for them to do their good sales and others. People are anxious when they go out because they don't know what is going to happen to them. So I think that the more they do this, even though they may have a case, whatever it might be, at the end of the day, the public opinion that they are seeking might go against them if they continue with this over a long haul. So the best is for them to stop it, deal with the issues on the ground. There are senior people in the party. There are senior people in the country. There are senior citizens within the country and maybe others who are ready to help. Let's get to the table and talk and find a solution to the problems.
There was the peace pact that was signed by the leaders of the NDC and the MPP going into election 2020. And you could say that to some extent they have control over the supporters of their party. But to what extent do they have that control? I make that point in asking you this question. If any of the sides, the supporters of either side, did things that we do not want to see, things that bode on the criminal, would you say the party leadership has failed? Would you lay the blame at the doorstep, for example, of John Dramani Mahama and the NDC or Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and the MPP? Where do we lay the blame? Do we just stick to individuals?
Well, I think that the party leaders have a lot of work to do. We are dealing with a situation which is virtually in the state of a mob action. And once that thing starts, sometimes it's difficult to control it because people are agitated, people are anxious. I've heard people who have raised questions that if we don't win the elections, what do we do in the next 4 years? So there are people who have hung their lives on winning this election. And so they are aggrieved, and that is true. We need to admit that to that. So I think that the party leaders and the leaders of the party have a lot of work to do to talk to their members. It may take them some time, but I believe that if they boldly make a statement and tell their people, can we stop this and go through the normal process of dealing with this, there should be a way out.
Is that to suggest that we should lay the blame at their doorsteps? I would like you to hit the nail on the head, because what you're saying basically is that they have that power to communicate with their supporters and tell them, do this or don't do this. In other words, act or don't act. So if there is an action or there is an inaction, then we can blame them. Is that not it?
Well, as peace mediators, sometimes we don't want to go out to, as it were, take sides. So I wouldn't want to categorically say we are laying the blame at somebody. But I believe that the party leadership have a responsibility in calling their people to order.
So proceeding from there, what next is the Peace Council going to do? We know you're going to keep on engaging both sides of the divide and all of that. I also know that, for example, the traditional leaders, you're engaging them. Maybe before we get to what next you're going to do, what engagement has happened between you and the National House of Chiefs, for example? What has emanated from that?
Yeah, we have, you've seen that the House of Chiefs have issued a statement. The Ghana Chiefs have issued a statement. Now, some of the things that people do not understand is that the Peace Council is made up of people representing certain constituencies in this country. One, we have the Christian Council as representative of the Peace Council. And so the Christian Council has come up with a statement. We have the Pentecostal and Charismatic Council on it. They've issued a statement. We have the traditional authorities there. They've issued a statement. We have the Catholic bishops. They've also issued a statement. So when we as a council get to a point where we are virtually hitting the wall, we go back to our constituents and ask them, can you also help us? And that has been the reason why we have engaged all of them in terms of dealing with this matter. And so that is why the House of Chiefs issued their statement. And we are still talking with them to find some way to get through to this. And we believe that the constituents that we represent, we have appealed to our brothers. There are 3 representatives of the Muslim community on the council as well. The Ahmadiyya, Malvi bin Salih is there. He's the head of the Ahmadiyya movement. We have representatives from the office of the chief imam there. We have the Tijaniya people there. So we've asked all of them, get involved, get your people on the ground to understand that we need peace in the country. It's only in that peace that we can all sit down to resolve some of these problems. So it's not only the House of Chiefs, but we have engaged all these constituents to help us deal with the matter.
Right. Now, to wrap up, we're in Christmas week. Come Friday, the 25th, we're going to celebrate Christmas. But the mood is not the same, not just because of COVID-19, but also because of all the anxiety, the tension, and all of that. Between now and the end of the year, what exactly is the Peace Council going to be up to ensure that as we enter 2021, maybe the feel, the ambiance is different?
Well, we will keep on with our engagement, and we trust that God being our helper, there will be some solution to this matter.
Any specific groups or bodies you're going to be engaging that you could share with us?
Well, we will keep on with the traditional groups. Right now, our major focus will be on the Islamic community to see what we can make out of that as well.
The Islamic community, you said?
Yes. Yes.
Why that community specifically?
Yeah, because we have not gotten them to issue any statement yet. So we are still working on those things. And we believe that a lot of the people who are leading some of these things have also been there. Since our statement came out yesterday, I've had all kinds of messages coming to me. People are telling me, no, you say you are a Christian and we are Muslims, and all kinds of things have been written. So we think that our engagement with the Muslim community will also help us a lot in this light.
Reverend Dr. Edu Gyamfi, we'd like to thank you immensely for agreeing to interact with us this morning, and we pray for more power to your elbow as you lead the National Peace Council on this all-important mission. We wish you the very best. Reverend Dr. Ernest Edu Gyamfi is chairman of the Peace Council, and he joined us for this discussion. Rev, thank you so much. Okay. So that has been our interaction on the back of this impasse that has actually, engulfed all of us. When we return, we're actually going to interact with our parliamentary correspondent, Joseph Opoku Gakpo.